place that once housed thousands of Georgia's most unmanageable citizens.
Central State Hospital's medical surgical unit treats high-risk patients and prisoners. Governor Barnes has a plan to save money by cutting nearly 170 jobs at Central State Hospital in Milledgeville.
Central State, which was named first the Georgia Lunatic Asylum, and then it was the Milledgeville Sanitarium, and then the Milledgeville State Hospital, and then Central State Hospital. Well, in 150 years, there's been a lot of good things that have gone on there.
In 1839, the state legislature set out to create the state hospital. The first buildings were constructed in 1841, 1842. First patients arrived about that time. It began as just a two-building facility. From 1842 through 1865, there in the antebellum period, the hospital grew. In its first year, it had about 100 patients. In the 1930s and into the 1940s, we begin to see even more construction, new buildings popping up thanks to the New Deal. And in spite of what seems like an enormous amount of expansion, there actually was never enough money appropriated for the care of patients here. And that's something that we see throughout the life of the hospital.
Overcrowding is still a real problem, and according to standards we have to have so many square feet per patient, and even with the reduction in the number of patients we have, we are still overcrowded by at least 1,000.
In the 1940s and 1950s, we begin to see greater advancements in medicine and in treatment options, outpatient treatment. We begin to see the patients here filter out to regional hospitals.
More worried that any other hospital or private hospital or somebody beside us, one, may not know what they're getting into or may not be prepared for the time and care that these patients would require.
All of these patients begin to leave Milledgeville. So as this happens, we have a campus that is in decline. The campus just shrunk, and now it's down to about 3 buildings, which is a far cry from, again, its peak.
And it's like a ghost town. And the buildings are destroyed. And I've never understood why, when the first raindrop came through on your head, somebody didn't say, oh, we got to fix the roof. Why do we have to wait until it's totally caved in to say, oh, there's no value to this building, we should tear it down?
This campus is something that, again, is very near and dear to my heart. I myself am the 4th generation of my family to work here. My great-grandfather worked at the steam plant. My grandmothers both were nurses here. My parents worked for the Department of Corrections. So I literally grew up in the shadow of the state hospital.
My great-grandmother was actually a patient at Central State Hospital. She went there in the late 1890s and spent her entire life and died in 1931 at Central State. I wanted to find records on her and history about her, and I couldn't do it. I'm still trying. It's been very disappointing. So then I said, well, there's nowhere that anybody can find anything, so let's start a Facebook group which will then document all the history and all the people. Well, that became very successful, which is now over 10,000 people. The history should not be forgotten. It was good and bad, and we need to know about history so that we don't repeat it in the future. If we don't learn from the past, we're not going to solve anything.
I think the history of Central State Hospital has impacted mental health in terms of Milledgeville and the state of Georgia in a variety of ways. Unfortunately, historically, it has been my experience that when people hear the word Milledgeville, they automatically concentrate on the fact that it was and is the home of Central State Hospital. And unfortunately, for some individuals that did not have an appreciation for the significance of mental health, it had a negative connotation.
It's so funny that with all the great things that we have, being the antebellum capital, being home to Georgia College, Georgia Military College, all of these great institutions, what people remember most is that, you know, when they were children, they were threatened by their parents. If you don't act right, I'm going to send you to Milledgeville. And that's stuck. And that makes Milledgeville and Central State Hospital a complicated relationship and a complicated legacy.
I think it also provides a rich history in recognizing that for years, individuals that needed services, they had somewhere to go.
We look back on the treatments that were done here, electroshock therapy, insulin shock therapy, lobotomies. You know, we look back on that today and we see that as barbaric. There's no other word for it. It was barbaric.
These are lobotomy picks that were developed to destroy part of the brain, but that was a good thing at the time. History is history, and it's part of our world, so why try to negate it and cover it up?
The end goal for the Redevelopment Authority is to create jobs. That is really and truly our singular purpose, is to take what is here and leverage it for the benefit of the community. We want to be able to turn this entire campus into a place where there are jobs and opportunities for the citizens of Milledgeville and Baldwin County. The idea behind Renaissance Park was to present an image of rising from the ashes of the old and Renaissance, because this is a campus that truly did it all. And I feel like there is such a broad opportunity under the banner of Renaissance Park, and not cover over the history that's here, because it's inescapable, but to put a new brand and a new face on the campus that is inviting, that does present an opportunity for investment without the stigma of, you know, immediately being drawn back to the state hospital.
With the Pecan Grove, with the auditorium, with some of the buildings, there is a desire to utilize those, to make them available to the community. I think as long as people do not lose sight of the individuals that were and continue to be provided services there, they're not just a diagnosis. They're not just you know, a number. They're real people. And so I think as long as we continue to treat the graveyard that exists there, the history with respect to the individuals, we continue to refer to them with dignity and respect, I think we can find a balance